Grindel now arrives upstairs. Surveying the scene momentarily, he acts swiftly. He doesn't take any opportunity to be fired upon, and he takes a full swing with his double-headed axe at Philippe de Cartes. With one fell swoop, he decapitates his gun hand from the elbow. The instant shock of the blow kills Philippe de Cartes outright. Now we have a hell of a mess upstairs. Two characters are badly injured. Quickly, Gustav is on the scene. There's still mayhem and chaos downstairs. The gentleman who's been reading his books is summoned. He's a doctor. His name is Max Hindelmann. He comes upstairs, administers some help to the group. The remaining help that comes later is from Greta, from the Herbs. While all this is going on, of course, Giselle manages to persuade Gustav that it is Philippe de Cartes' fault. He will write a letter to that effect, and he does indeed write a letter. That letter's quite detailed. For the purpose of this video, we won't go through the letter, but needless to say, it leaves information about who was involved, how it occurred, and does paint a good picture of the scene with a couple of minor twists which are great, and adds on a little bit of detail that Gustav asked for, that a duck was lost in the process, which all goes back to Lithia and her story, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. The situation upstairs is obviously quite confusing, with Philippe de Cartes dead, Gustav running around, people downstairs in a panic, people being healed by Max and Greta. It leaves opportunities for some characters to do some things on their own. One of the things that does happen at this point is Giselle rifles through Philippe de Cartes' immediate belongings, his coat, etc., takes the blunderbuss and what have you. I believe in the end the blunderbuss ends up into the hands of Giselle, but on his person, on Philippe's body, Aldred does discover some information which seems to lead to the fact that he was looking for Giselle. At no point during the evening did he give any indication that he recognised him or was aware of him, but that could be because of the way that Giselle tends to dress and the way that he was described. So he may not have immediately recognised him for who he was, but the description he has on himself, it gives details of his name, gives a physical description, a drawing, and at no point do the players at this point find out exactly really what that's referring to. However, there is something more interesting later on about Giselle's character, which will come out in due course. I think another important scene to talk about before we move on any further is to discuss the scene with Lithia and Gustav that occurs before the commotion. After Gustav has served the duck sandwich, which Lithia can just about accept as okay, he still wants to try and make amends with his guest and offers a token of his esteem, a red scarf, and asks Lithia to wear it wherever she goes in the Empire, as it may bring her luck. Let's come back to this scene now, after it's quietened down, after both Giselle and Audrey have been attended to by both Greta and the Doctor, Max Hindelmann. They are left to explore the room pretty much on their own. They decide that they want to have a look at Philippe de Cartes' footlocker. That's a relatively large chest, about 3 foot long, 2.5 feet high, 2.5 feet wide, dome top with not only a lock but also a chain running around it. But they don't approach it quite subtly. In fact, they actually decide to kick and sort of knock it about a bit to see what it does. However, in so doing, it disturbs some sort of vial or glass object inside, which shatters relatively easily, releasing an instant gas that seeps out of the chest. Both of them have to make a test to see if they are strong enough to withstand the effects of it. Aldred does, but unfortunately Giselle doesn't, at which point Giselle wants to leave the building by the shortest route possible. There's a sort of, he's overcome with fear and emotion, he just must get out. And full credit to Giselle, played by Matthew, who decides the best and quickest method out of the room is to swan dive out of the first room floor window, which is quite a classic scene. And a number of characters see him going down. Grindel sees him falling. He's halfway down the stairs, sees him fall, some object fall past him, and outside. Several patrons downstairs in the barroom see something fall out into the courtyard. The fall, luckily, doesn't actually kill Giselle, but it again, he's either awfully close or really unlucky. It depends which way you look at it. But he still wants to get out, and he's trying his best to fumble around with the main huge bolt that operates the 2 double doors. He's literally a huge latch you have to pull across. But while he's doing this, Lithia has made her way outside. She touches the side of his neck, and it's somehow something she does, being an elf, makes him fall asleep. Imagine it, I suppose, a bit like a spock hold, for want of a better word. But he collapses unconscious. At least he's now calm. Several of the characters, including Grindel, carry him up to Philip Descartes' room. By this stage, several hands, maids, and various servants are washing the mess upstairs and cleaning the room. Giselle's body is placed onto Philip Descartes' bed. Philip Descartes' body is taken downstairs into the cellar. The whole thing has been written up by Giselle and handed to the landlord, because of course road warns will come by, and he signed it, and several of the other characters have signed it. So that means the characters now finally, as the place finally gains some sort of control, can go to sleep. Grindel decides that the best thing to do is actually stay with Giselle's body, sleeping body, just in case there's any reprisals, which fortunately don't come. The rest of the characters goes downstairs into the bar room after it's cleared by the staff, hammocks are strung up, and get a reasonable good night's sleep until the wee hours of the morning, when several of the guests begin assembling downstairs. Bags are packed, and we're particularly talking here about the three ladies. It's after 8 o'clock, and they begin to get more and more irate. By this stage, Grindel has woken up and come downstairs. Now, unfortunately for Grindel, one of the ladies, her name is Lady Isolde von Strudeldorf, a noblewoman from Middenheim, mistakes him for one of the coach drivers, because again he's just a dwarf to her eyes, and immediately begins insulting him, asking for her bags to be packed. "What are you doing, man? Come on, can't you see what is going on here? This is absolutely outrageous service." And to his full credit, the only real reaction they get from Grindel is A, he's not going to do it, and B, she is added to his book of grudges. Now, the coach, the Cannibal Express coach, is being prepared outside by a number of the groomsmen. Gunnar and Holtz are eventually woken by some of the players and make their way downstairs. The coach is obviously late leaving, which has upset Lady Strudeldorf. However, what really upsets her the most is when she finds out that the characters managed to persuade Gunnar and Holtz during the evening, actually this is down to Grindel, to persuade them that they deserve passage on board their coach. And in fact, no money exchanged hands. Grindel did a good job while they were in their drunken state of persuading them that they should offer him and his compatriots a lift down. Obviously, the good lady is not happy about this, but just has to bite her tongue and accept it. So most of the characters get on board the actual coach. One person who doesn't is Grindel. Grindel goes up front with the two drivers, acting as a driver's mate, effectively, as the coach leaves the coach and horses. Gunnar and Holtz push the coach hard for 2 hours and maintain the reputation of the Cannibal Express as the fastest coach that exists in the Empire. They round a bend, and ahead of them they can see, maybe 100 yards or so, a very odd scene. A coach that's turned over on its side on the road, blocking it, several dead horses strewn off to both sides of the dead area, a number of bodies strewn across it. They immediately bring the coach to a halt. Grindel alerts the rest of the group that they've got trouble, and as the coach stops, Aldred moves around to the front of the coach and Lithia moves to the rear. The creature stands up, turns, and rushes suicidally towards the coach, towards the player's coach, dagger in hand, frothing from the mouth, liquid running out of the eyes. As it approaches Aldred immediately recognises this person, someone he knows, obviously changed, but someone he knew very well, Rolf Hurtis, an old friend and acquaintance from the past, someone that was a good friend of his. It puts him off. It stops him fighting with any conviction. He tries to defend off his friend. His friend is doing everything he can to kill him. He has a dagger in his hand. He has this possessed look about him. Incredible strength that he shows as well as he fights with everything he's got, but isn't able to land any telling blows. By this stage, one of the drivers, Gunnar, has pulled out his own blunderbuss, aims and fires, and shoots Rolf stone dead with a blast straight to its head, this creature's head. This leaves Aldred confused, shocked, bewildered, and standing there, dazed. Lithia has been able to survey the scene from the rear of the coach. She notices most of the bodies are open and are visible, but one has been dragged off to the side and partially hidden under some undergrowth. It has its face down in the mud. The figure's form is of a similar shape to Giselle's, and as she goes over and turns it over, immediate shock overcomes her, as the person staring back at her looks identical to Giselle. Lithia searches the body while no one else is around and discovers a letter. I'm going to read that letter for you. It's written by a company called Mares Lock, Stock and Barl, Civil Lawyers, Commissioners for Oaths, Gartenweg, Bogenhaven. Dear Herr Liebrung, after many lengthy researches, we have come to believe that you are the only living relative of one Baronet Liebrung, late of the town of Ubersyke. This being the case, and any other herethor unknown and pertinent factors notwithstanding, I am herewith charged to inform you that you are the sole beneficiary of the Baronet's last will and testament, hereafter referred to as the document of the first party. I, the undersigned, acting, as in my capacity as legal executor of the aforementioned document of the first party, do therefore urge you to make your way with all speed to my offices in the fair town of Bogenhaven. Thereupon, providing that you can produce an affidavit of your identity as Castor Liebrung, signed by 2 witnesses, we shall be pleased to hand over the title deed to the Baronet's manor house, together with its contents, which include a most tastefully stocked wine cellar, its extensive estates, and the sum of 20,000 gold crowns. I remain your most humble servant, Dietrich Barl, KC, LLB. Signed this day, the 10th of Naxensen, in the 2512th year of the Empire. Printed by Schultz and Friedman of Bogenhaven. There is also a separate document which says, we the undersigned do solemnly swear that the bearer of this document is Castor Liebrung. It's signed by Ingrid Zigerman, priestess of Sigmar, and the Guildmaster of the Merchants Guild, Oscar Helmut. The only person that Lithia shows this document to is Giselle. Giselle is overcome with emotion seeing this person lying on the floor who's identical to them in every detail. He believes he has no other family members at all, has never seen any, none has ever been discussed, and is quite shocked by the contents of the letter and the details, and also pleasantly surprised. The 2 of them agree at this point not to tell the others at the moment. I guess there's more for them to discuss. And that pretty much brings our first session to a close, with one final detail. The overturned coach is pulled off the side of the road. It is filled with the bodies of the dead and the unusual creatures that they've uncovered. There is also trails of some of these, for want of a better word, these creatures like Rolf that have fled into the woods, but the characters don't want anything to do with that. The coach then, the overturned one that's been pulled off to the side of the road, is set fire to, and the final scene of the first session has the character's coach, some of the characters looking back as they see the coach on fire and smoke rising over the Drakwood forest. And that is where our first session comes to an end. All that leaves me to do as a GM is to thank the players for their fantastic efforts in the game. It was an absolute blast from my perspective. I think everybody had a genuinely good time, and certainly the 3 hours went in the blink of an eye, which is always a good scene. Many great opportunities presented themselves because of the way the players played, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I massively look forward to the next part, which will take place on the 26th of January at the same time at 7 PM. The video for that next session will probably follow similar suit. 2 to 3 days afterwards I will release that. Anyway, thanks for staying with us through what has been a long video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and all that leaves me to do is say I've been Sean Connors, this has been The Outsiders. Till the next time, take care of yourselves and happy gaming. Bye bye.